Hey everyone, Mark Ferguson with Investor More, and welcome to the real estate investing video I'm going to do for you guys. Today, I'm going to talk about getting a loan versus paying cash when you're buying a house, flipping houses, renting properties. What is the best way to invest in rentals with money? A lot of people think cash is the safest way, the best way, and I completely disagree with that for a number of reasons that I'm going to get into here pretty soon. Before we get started, of course, check out investormore.com. I am running kind of a Christmas sale on all my coaching products. I've got stuff from like under $50 to a couple $100 that comes with coaching from me, conference calls, things like that. So just use coupon code XMAS50, XMAS50, and you get 50% off anything in my store right now. Want to get started with this video, of course, about cash versus getting a loan. There's a lot of Dave Ramsey fans out there, a lot of people who preach cash is the way to invest in real estate. It's not safe to get a loan. They use the housing crash as reasons why people get burned with loans. But I think there's a lot of false information spread out there about loans, and there's different levels of how safe loans are too. Sure, if you finance 120% of a house and you have no cash flow and you're losing money on all the time, a loan is probably not a good idea. It's really risky. However, if you have cash flow, if you've got 40, 50% of equity in the property and you got a great deal on it, getting loans can be a fantastic way to invest in properties, whether it's one you live in, a rental, a flip, whatever it is. I think getting loans the right way is much more advantageous than paying cash for everything. Right now, I have 16 flips going. I had 22 going a few weeks ago. We sold quite a few. And I've got 18 rentals. All of them have loans against them. My personal property has loans against it as well. Doesn't mean I've financed 100% of the value of everything, but I do have a loan on each property, but I still have tons of equity in my properties as well. I have something like, $3 or $4 million of equity in my properties right now if I subtract market value from the loans. So it's not like I'm leveraged to the hilt. I have a lot of equity, but I use debt the right way. All right, so start off with rental properties because I like rentals. I love rentals. That's what I started my blog about. You should make much more money with the right rentals, financing them, than you will paying cash. And I'll give you some quick examples, some really easy numbers. Let's say you make $300 a month with a loan on a rental property. You're reducing maintenance, vacancies, property management, taxes, insurance, your mortgage payment. From the rent, you're left over with $300 in your pocket every month. Great. Let's say your mortgage payment is like $500 a month. So if you were to pay cash for that property, you would make $800 a month in cash flow, which seems like the better deal. Well, pay cash, make $800 a month, or get a loan and make $300 a month. But the tricky part is you're putting way less money down when you get a loan. You're probably putting a third of the money into it to get that $300 a month instead of the $800. So if you were to buy 3 properties with the same amount of cash, you'd actually be making $900 a month in cash flow instead of $800 a month. So you've got 3 properties, they're making more money, and yes, you have some loans against them, but there's so many other advantages to buying more rentals that it makes getting loans on them almost a no-brainer choice. For one thing, if you're buying real estate in any means, you should be getting a good deal on it. I mean, that's one of the huge advantages of buying rentals, flips, your own house, is you can buy real estate below market value. You can't really do that with the stock market. You can hope the stock market is undervalued and stocks will go up. But with real estate, I mean, you can know a house is worth $120,000 and either finding distressed sellers or doing marketing, buying houses that need work, you can buy a house 20, 30% less than what it's actually worth. So you walk into the deal, if it's a $100,000 purchase, with $20,000 or $30,000 of equity. So if you buy one house with cash, you walk into it with $20,000 or $30,000 equity. If you buy 3 houses with loans, all of a sudden you're at $60,000 or $90,000 of equity instead of just that $20,000 or $30,000. So you've made a huge addition in net worth and equity by using loans when you buy below market value. Now, we already talked about cash flow, but you'll probably make more cash flow each month with the right rentals financing them than you will paying cash. Along with that, you're paying down the loan every month. So maybe you're paying down $100, $80 every month. That's additional money you're making on all three properties, not just one, but all three loans you're paying down. That could be, $200 or $300 a month extra you're making. Plus, there are amazing tax advantages with rentals as well. You can depreciate a rental property over 27 and a half years. Now, that could change with the new tax plan, but it's only going to get better. It's not going to get worse. They're talking about decreasing that rental property schedule. But for right now, we'll assume it's 27 and a half years. That means, on a house that's worth $100,000, you're writing off like $3,000 a year, which saves you another $1,000 in taxes depending on what tax bracket you're on. So there's another $100 or so a month you're making on all three properties, not just one. You're also gaining on appreciation. Now, I don't like to bet on appreciation. I like to hope for it. But if you've got three properties that gain value, obviously that's 3 times your return versus one property. All that adds up to a huge return for getting a loan on 3 properties versus buying one in cash. And there's other advantages as well. I mean, one of the biggest advantages is most people don't have the cash to buy a rental property. They might be saving up for 10 years before they get that money together to actually purchase that house when they could have already bought a house many years before. We're paying down the loan, we're accumulating the money from the tax advantages, equity pay down, cash flow, and they could have saved all that money to keep buying more properties with loans. And they may have 4 or 5 houses with loans on them before they could have ever bought one with cash. And that time value is worth so much money because of inflation. Just having your money working for you, the sooner you can buy, the better off you'll be. And of course, the other advantage, I think, is diversification. A lot of people say, if you have, rental properties and the market tanks, or your tenant, won't pay rent, it's so much better to have a cash property because you're not paying your mortgage payment. Well, that's somewhat true, but when you pay for a property in cash, you still have expenses. If that property goes vacant, you're still paying the utilities, you're still paying property taxes, you're still paying insurance, HOA. There's still costs with it. It's not like it's a free house you won't have to pay anything for. Yeah, if you have a loan, you have to pay the mortgage payment on top of that. But if you have 3 houses, there's a lot smaller chance all 3 are going to go vacant versus having just one house. It can actually be less risky to have more properties because with more numbers, you'll have less vacancies. There's a smaller chance that all your properties will go vacant. You'll have some money coming in. Plus, if one neighborhood tanks, something crazy happens, like who knows, forest fire, something like that, like we're seeing in California right now. If you have properties in different neighborhoods, different areas, your one rental property won't get wiped out. Maybe one of your 3 or 5 will get wiped out, but not the only one you have when you buy with cash. So I think it's actually safer to pay with loans than cash. And the last factor, people like to say, well, what if you lose your job? What if you lose your income? You're going to have to make your mortgage payment. You're much safer with cash because you don't have that mortgage payment. Again, the same thing comes into effect. You still have expenses. You still have the taxes, the insurance, the HOA. Those costs will still be there. So it's not like the only cost is your mortgage. You will have more costs. And if you lose your job and you pay for a house in cash, all of a sudden you've got what? $100,000, $150,000 tied up in your house. Well, if you don't have a job, it's going to be really, really hard to get that money out of that house. You're not going to be able to refinance it because lenders won't give you a loan if you have no job. You won't be able to get a home equity line of credit because lenders aren't going to give you a loan. All you're going to be able to do is sell the property to get your money back. So you sell the property, you've got to pay taxes on the sale, you've got this big cash coming in, but now you've got no income. But on the flip side, if you had multiple rental properties that were financed and you lose your job, you're probably going to be bringing in more rent, have more equity, and that rent that's coming in from those properties may actually give you enough income to qualify for a refinance, to qualify loans. Now, you have to have a lot of rentals. That's not very likely, but it's possible. But at the same time, you won't have all your cash invested in that property. I think it is much safer to save some of your cash, have an emergency fund, and finance the properties so you aren't putting all of your money into that one property. So really, I mean, the first thing you want to do when you're investing in rental properties is save up an emergency fund, which could be 6 months of expenses. Don't touch that money. And then use down payments or money for down payments, repairs, and keep that emergency fund. That's much safer than using all of your money to pay off a house or to buy a house with cash. Having that cash available is much easier to get to than if it's all in a property, and it's just the better route to go. So for me, save up your money, build an emergency fund, get financing for the property, so not all your money's tied up into it. Plus, you've got all the advantages of equity pay down, tax advantages, appreciation, buying below market value, and more cash flow coming in. So it's kind of a no-brainer to me to finance the properties if you're doing it the right way. Now, if you're buying properties that have no cash flow, you're putting money into them every month, and you're kind of scraping by, you spent all your cash, you have no emergency fund, then that might not be the best investment. So again, you have to buy the right properties to make it work when you're financing them. And the same thing goes for fix and flipping. I get questions all the time. Hey, do you pay cash for your flips? Do you finance them? Don't you make more money if you pay cash for them? And it's kind of the same concept. Like I said, I've had 22 flips going at once this year. Every single one of them was financed with either private money, hard money, my own money, well, part of my own money into it, but then bank money. They all had some type of loan against them. And on the surface, like, yeah, but if you don't pay all those financing costs, aren't you going to make more money? Yeah, I'll make more money on one flip. So I averaged just over $30,000 in profit on each flip I did this year. And that included financing costs. So if I took away those financing costs, I'll use a high number. I will say $10,000 in financing costs on each flip, which is way more than it actually is, but I'm going to use that just to prove a point here. Then I would make $40,000 on one flip. So hey, yeah, I'm making $30,000 with financing versus $40,000 without financing. I'm making a lot more money on each flip. However, I'm bringing 3 times as much cash into the deal by not financing the flip. Sometimes more than that, sometimes 4 times as much cash. That means I can flip 3 times, 4 times less properties than I could if I was using financing. So let's do the math there. If I am flipping 3 times as many properties and I'm making $30,000 on each property with financing, that means I make $90,000 on those 3 properties. If I flip one house using all cash and I make $40,000 on it, I make $40,000. Again, $90,000 versus $40,000. Pretty simple. You make a lot more money with financing than you do with cash when you look at the big picture. And it's also a diversification thing as well. It may seem crazy to flip that many houses, but at the same time, things go wrong when you flip a house. If I have a flip go wrong when I've got 20 at once, it doesn't hurt me that much. If I have a flip go wrong and I only have 2 or 3 going at once, then it's a lot bigger deal to me because I don't have the other flips to make up for it. So again, it makes more sense for me to finance those flips than to pay cash. I have a lot of equity in the properties, so it's not like I'm financing 100% of all of it. So if things do go south, the market changes, I'll still be able to sell them. And that's kind of the same thing with my rentals as well. When I buy my rentals, I'm getting a really good deal on them. I'm usually putting 20% down. So once I've bought the property, fixed it up, and got it rented, I usually have 40, 50% equity in the property above and beyond my loan. So it's not like my loan is this huge, massive debt against the property. It's actually fairly small compared to the market value. All right, and lastly, your own personal house. A lot of people strive to pay off their house, the American dream, buy a house of your own, slowly pay it down. Everyone celebrates after 30 years of paying it off. Or maybe you pay it off sooner, you pay it off with a 15-year mortgage, which is always hyped by lenders. Again, I don't believe in that. I don't think it's the right choice financially, kind of for the same reasons with investments. I think you're better off, instead of taking all your extra money and putting it into your house, save that money. Have a cash emergency fund. Have that money for emergencies. If you lose your job, if something happens, it'll be much easier to get to than if it's all in your house. And let's say you buy a house for $200,000. You spend 10 years paying off the loan. Maybe it gets down to $50,000 and something happens to you. You get sick, you can't work. Well, you've got $150,000 of equity in your home, or maybe more than that if it's gone up in value after 10 years. How do you get to that money? If you're not working, you can't just get a loan from the bank. They won't give you one. What do you have to do? You have to sell the house. This is the house you live in. That doesn't make sense to me. People say it's safe to have your house paid off, but if you have to get to that money, you have to sell your house. Now you're paying rent. How does that make it safer than having a loan against it? It's much safer to have that cash available in an emergency account where you can use it quickly and easily, but you have to be disciplined not to spend it. I would not put a whole lot of extra money into your mortgage because interest rates are so low right now. You can do so much more with that money, investing it in even the stock market, which I don't like, but you can do it, or buying other investment properties. Money is really cheap. 4 or 5% interest rates, that's so cheap for housing. When it's spread over 30 years, really low house payments, it just is a huge opportunity to use that extra money you have to invest in something else, really create financial security by creating money coming in, not just paying off a very low interest rate over time. At some point, you're hoping to eliminate your $1,200 a month mortgage payment by putting an extra $200,000 into your house. It doesn't make sense. We could use that money to do so much more with it, make so much more money investing in other things. And then if you have that cash emergency fund, it's much easier to get to than it is the money in your house. So overall, my opinion is pretty clear. I think getting financing, getting loans is safer, it's smarter, it'll make you more money, you'll have more diversification, and you really aren't risking that much if you buy the right way, you buy below market value, you have cash flow with your rentals. If things do go bad, you can still sell your properties if you have that equity in them. If you lose your job, you get sick, and you have that cash emergency fund, that's what it's there for. Your house should not be an emergency fund because it's hard to refinance when you aren't working. And if you sell it, you still don't have a place to live, or your investment will stop bringing you money. So that's all I've got for this video. Be sure to leave comments below. I love hearing from you guys. I answer all of them myself. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. I'll have a link to my site and some more information on this topic as well on my blog, investformore.com. And thanks for watching. Hope everybody has a great holiday season. And we'll have some more videos coming up with my fix and flips, my rentals, and of course, some real estate advice for you too. Thanks a lot.